fights with passion, and he inspires.
Are you ready for a war?
All right, welcome back to From 8 Arbitration, post-Boston episode. And, man, we had a blast in Boston. That was a lot of fun. Those of y'all who made it know what I'm talking about. Those who didn't, make sure you do what you got to do to get to L.A., because it was a lot of fun, man. A lot of good stuff happening in Boston. Got a lot of stuff to cover today. I'm going to do some more shout-outs. I'm going to do an anti-shout-out to start it off. Then we're going to talk about kind of where we've been and the future of all of this, right? Because now we get ready for 2026. Starting next week, I'm going to do about a 4-week series, 5-week series on 6-day counts. Those things are coming. Matter of fact, my station's one of them. So we'll get ready for the 6-day counts, okay? And by the time those things come around, your carriers will be educated and ready to get into that 6-day count. I'm going to read next Sunday. I'll have a lot of arbitration decisions. I'll go ahead and put those up for you. Kind of arbitrators' opinions on 6-day counts, where management usually gets tripped up in 6-day counts. So that way, we'll just go right from the ending, arbitration, and put that up front. So you'll know what you're looking for. You'll know what to tell your carriers to do. As shop stewards, you'll be prepared to grieve these things. So I'll have a handful of arbitrators' decisions, pros and cons, and that way we'll get ahead of the curve as far as these 6-day counts. TRAP is dead. I don't think it's going to come back in the next contract. Whenever we get that, we're on day 448 without a contract. And so I'm pretty sure, I believe that they said in the convention that would not come back. Now, they may work on a different kind of joint process, but TRAP is dead. And so we're just going to educate. And starting next Sunday, I will have, like I said, a handful of arbitrators' decisions for and against. And that way we'll be ready for that, all right? Need to get back into a lot more training, and that's what we'll do. I will always hold both sides accountable. I just have to. The Postal Service, they are what they are. But also my union, I'm going to hold them accountable, and I'll continue to do so. Boston was a success. Whichever side you're on, it was a success. And a lot of, everybody's saying, hey, now we need to unify, and I agree with that. We're a stronger union when we're together, and we have to be united. I don't care, people are like, management? Well, no, I don't care what management thinks about us. One bit. I've never cared what management thought about us. But we do need to be united, and we will be. We will be. But there will always be issues, and I'm going to bring them up. If I'm not happy with something, as a dues-paying member, I'll bring it up. It's my right to do so. But Boston, we'll get into that in just a second. I've got 2 guests on today, right? The Angry Mailman is going to be on, and also Mr. Mike Cariff, who had a huge week as well. And we'll talk about that. As far as the convention, I know I gave daily episodes, kind of little synopsis of each day. But as a whole, I would say that the city letter carrier won because for the first time, you kind of felt some uneasiness with the establishment, with the things that went on. That started out with the CLC on Monday, standing at those mics for over 2 hours until we were recognized. And we talk about that in these with my guests, but JB and I had a mic 8. We were standing right in the middle of the floor, and unfortunately we weren't called on, but and that was all based off of the letter from our president saying that it was his determination. I determined that y'all will not hear the appeal. And, the CLC was like, no, it's about the city letter carrier. So we're going to make sure that the appeal's heard. Regardless of how you read that letter, the president cannot be the supreme being, the final voice. It's always the body, the city letter carrier. Tyler Vasseur had a huge week. His vote didn't come out in his favor, but that dude showed that he was going to be a star. And he showed out when he had his speech. And y'all know Tyler, he's been on here numerous times, and he can come on here whenever he wants to. But that young man did a fantastic job. And the establishment went after him. Business agent after business agent after business agent. And that's the establishment. And people say, hey, that's who you voted for. They're doing their job, representing their carriers. That's who you voted for. And that sounds good if that was the case. But after coming out of Boston, I felt more than ever that it was the city letter carrier against the establishment. And there may be those that disagree with me, and that's fine. A lot of people disagree with me. But it seemed to me like it was always the city letter carrier against the establishment, starting with the CLC, then with Tyler Vasseur. Mike Cariff's big win was the city letter carrier against the establishment. So they took some chinks to the armor this week, right? They took some shots. And, they won. Renfroe won on the appeals, which is fine. I'm the first to say, and I've always said it, alcoholism is a disease. And you have to recognize that as such. So they hashed that out, and he won that, and good for him. He did a great job when he was testifying in front of everybody. He was coached well, like I said. Dude speaks well. Is very intelligent. He was very solemn. I thought that carried well for him. He was dishonest a lot, and that was called out. Some of it was called out, and some of it was not. But he was still not remorseful, still unapologetic, and still defiant, even when he was talking about the DUI. And so, but that is what it is, man. I've always said, you can wash a zebra all you want, but you never get them stripes off of it. A zebra's is a zebra. And so, it is what it is. And so, but Mike and I talk about that as well. So I think the Angry Mailman and I do. Let's get to these shout-outs, and then we'll talk a little bit more about some things, and then I'll get to these guests, and then we'll be done with it, all right? And then we'll get ready for the 6-day counts. First, let's do this anti-shout-out. And somebody sent me a name, and I gave him a shout-out, and dude was not happy. He is not a fan of mine. And so I think somebody got him. And so I told him I'd get on here and correct it, because he was displeased, to say the least. And so this is Mr. Corey Grott. Corey Grott. He said, hey, on today's episode, day 4 of the convention at approximately 16:30 minutes into your segment, you gave shout-outs. I don't know who is spreading rumors, lying, or trying to tarnish my name. But I am not a follower, nor do I listen to you daily. One of your followers, so-and-so, is a member of our branch, did it as a joke. We will have a discussion on this matter when I return home from the convention. I don't know how honest you are because I don't know you well enough, but I hope that you could mention a correction on your podcast. Seems to me that this member thinks it's funny to spread lies and rumors about me because of the way the votes turned out. So Corey Grott is not a fan. So national and business agents, if you're his business agent, and anybody that's his friend, understand that Corey Grott is not a fan of mine. He does not listen to me, and he does not want his name tarnished, and I'm sure blackballed for anything like that for listening to me. And so he is not a fan. And I think I said he was a fan, a huge fan. He's not. And so national, listen to me. I know y'all listen. Do not punish Corey Grott, okay, for listening, because he doesn't listen. NBA, do not blackball Corey Grott for listening. He does not listen, and he's not a fan. Mr. Grott, I told you I would correct that, and so there you are. There's your correction. So anybody that listens to this, understand that Corey Grott is not a fan, and he does not listen, and he does not want his name tarnished because he listens to a podcast, all right? And so, Mr. Grott, there you have it, my friend. There's your shout-out. I call it an anti-shout-out. So again, national and business agents, please, for the love of God, do not hold that against Mr. Corey Grott for listening to me, because he does not, and he is not a fan. All right, there you go, my friend. He's not a friend either. I take that back. He is not a friend of mine. He doesn't know me. And I don't know him, but he doesn't listen. So there you have it. All right, here goes another one. Now, these are actual shout-outs. I'd like to give a shout-out to my branch, 3792 in Midland, Texas. President Peter Vasquez and stewards Jacqueline Boxer and Joseph Gonzalez. And a shout-out to our sister branch, 3964 in Odessa, Texas. Its President Bill Lopez and its new Bulldog steward, Cindy Gann. So there you have it. And it's always encouraging to see new stewards that have stepped up to kick ass. And that's what this is all about. And that's what we're going to get back to is educating, because that's where we thrive when we educate. And here's the thing. It's all about the city letter carrier. I don't care about anything else, and I say that all the time. My love and my passion is for the city letter carrier, and I want y'all to be successful. That's all I want. I don't care about management. I don't care about the establishment. I care about the city letter carrier only. All I want is for y'all to be successful. And when the city letter carrier is educated, they're going to be able to help their stewards. When stewards are educated, they're going to be able to help the city letter carrier. When Formal A's are educated, they're going to be able to help the city letter carrier. When DRTs and advocates are educated, they're going to be able to help the city letter carrier. When the establishment, when national fights for us and loves us, like I always say, that's going to benefit the city letter carrier. All of this is about the city letter carrier and my love for them. This week, man, I had so many people coming up to me. It was crazy how many people had come up and were just thanking JB and I for educating. And, man, that sounds so trivial, but it's not, because that's what it's all about. And it was humbling. And JB said the same thing when we was driving to the bus, how humbling that was. You know, because you don't really understand the difference that you make. You know, people saying that they're motivated, they're encouraged, and getting into the fight again. Man, that's what this is all about. It's worth all the money. All the money we put into it, it's worth it, right? I love doing these shout-outs because it lets you know just how far-reaching this is, which I would have never thought. I would have never thought that. But it's for the small branches and for the huge branches. You know, I hope that it helps y'all. And I hope that, you know, when y'all get into those meetings, informal and formal, that y'all are confident in your position. And so that's encouraging, man, because at the end of the day, it's all about you, man, the city letter carrier. And that's every Sunday when I get on here, that's what it's about. Here we go, some more. A shout out to all my brothers and sisters at Local 902, Local 902, and my brother from Delaware. Glad to see the movement in person. Lots of work to do, but confident in 2026. The Shithouse Lawyers Incorporated. And that's great. You know, because we had a retired national officer call us Shithouse Lawyers. Could you imagine calling your people that? You may not like us. You know, you may not like the people that were trying to defend carriers or do what they thought was right, whether it's right or not. People that were trying to do what they thought was right, and a retired national officer calls us Shithouse Lawyers. Y'all want to talk about management getting a hold of stuff. I'm sure they would love to get a shirt saying that city letter carriers are shithouse lawyers. The disrespect on that was real, but that's all right. Can you give a shout out to Branch 496, Williamsburg, Virginia? A floor full of fighters. Hell yeah. Hey, man, anytime you have a chance, could you give my former branch, which will always have a special place in my heart as they groom me, a shout-out, especially Jimmy Knight in Arizona Merge Branch 1902. Thanks, man. Absolutely. So, Jimmy Knight, Branch 1902. There you have it, baby. Please give a shout-out to Branch 5, Nate Rotert and Mike Hutchison. I think that's Rotert. If it's not, it's Rotert. So Nate Rotert and Mike Hutchison, Branch 5, a shout out to y'all. This one's from Francisco Jose Cabrera. He says, hey, can you give a shout out from me to all of Branch 1111? So there you are, my brother, Branch 1111. And that guy's all over the place, man, doing the best he can as well. He educates a lot. And so I appreciate that, brother. Branch 1111, Francisco Jose Cabrera. You can give a shout out to the Lions of Branch 404 in Waco, Texas. They're on their way back from Boston right now. Absolutely. So Branch 404 in Waco, Texas, there's you some love. Branch 533, Kokomo. Not the city in the song wants to say, let's go motherfucking. And there you go, baby. Branch 533 in Kokomo. From Cole Billups, he says, will you please put in one for Mallory? She was really sad she couldn't make it. She's seriously talented steward with a passion. The future of this union, honestly. And I agree with that. Mallory is a star. And she does Discord. She does my From 8 Arbitration stuff. She's extremely involved with the union, with Discord, with my website, From 8 Arbitration. So, Mallory, from everybody, thank you. This person wants to give a shout out to Todd Utter in Branch 333, Ithaca, New York. He said, once again, thank you for all you do. Absolutely. So there's a shout out, Todd Utter in branch 333 of Ithaca, New York. Shout out to branch 10, Topeka. If you hear this, get to a meeting. If your ass ain't in that seat, we're going to continue to get beat. NALC, we're a Teflon, baby. So branch 10, Topeka. Can you give a shout out to branch 34 of Boston? I hope you enjoyed our city, man. We're a salty group, but have a lot of heart. We love what you're doing. Absolutely, and I agree with that, man. Boston was first class. Everybody there was first class, man. They were some exceptional individuals. Those people that were wearing the green shirts, loved them. Man, they were so kind to me and gracious. What a great group. Special shout out to all the branch stewards. They are pit bulls, the JFK office, Dorchester, Weymouth offices. And I know I'm beating up these names. I'm a southern boy from Nashville. Weymouth or Weymouth offices, Quincy offices, and Milton office. So there you have it. Would love to get a quick shout out. Tom Perry, steward in Provo, Utah, branch 887. So Tom Perry, steward in Provo, Utah, branch 887. Somebody showing you some love, my brother. Shout out to my branch, 1836. So 1836, somebody in there loves you, giving you a shout out. Shout out to Elliott Branch, 407 misses you. So Elliott, you got some love, man. 407 misses you. Now some of these I may accidentally do twice because I did not write down where I left off on these. And if I miss anybody, send them to me. Hell, I'll do some more next week before I get into that 6-day count. I'm going to start here. If I've done these again, I apologize. Shout out to branch 193, San Jose, California, from Rachel Garnsey. Shout out to branch 193, San Jose, California, from Rachel Garnsey. Branch 576, Phoenix, Arizona. People want to give you a shout out. Branch 6000, Roosevelt, Long Island, New York. And thank you for what you do. You've made me a smarter and stronger shop steward, my mentor, my brother, and my friend. I love you, brother. You know that. And I appreciate that. Branch 40, Cleveland, Ohio. Sending love your way, brother. Please do a shout out to California branch 1563 and our boys Josh Branson and Mike, a.k.a. Lumpy Duvall. They work tirelessly for all of us carriers and need some love. Thanks, brother. And James Henry for president all day, every day. I like that. So, yeah, if they work tirelessly, man, they're going to get all the love. So to those guys, appreciate you. Shout out to NALC branch 133, Sacramento, California. I wonder if branch 642 bothered to show up. I don't know. Shout out to JB for all the knowledge he has shared. And shout out to John Poskin for continuing to appear on the podcast, even though every single one of them has had technical difficulties. And that's true, isn't it? I suck, man, and I apologize for that. But so there's you some more shout outs, right? There's you some more shout outs, and I hope you appreciate those. People taking the time out to do some shout outs. Where we've been, man, we have done a lot of educating. And I have done a lot of going off, because I'm not pleased with my union right now. And so I'm hoping that that'll turn around. Hopefully we'll get a great contract, and we deserve it. And we need it, right? So hopefully that will come about sooner rather than later. I've gone off a lot. And I know that a lot of people that talk to me in Boston are like, hey, man, love the podcast, can't stand the language. And I agree with that. I agree with that. But when you have a passion for the city letter carrier and they're being screwed over by both parties, it's very hard for me to contain myself because I've spent a lot of time fighting like hell for the city letter carrier. And I will always do that. I've got 7 more years of fighting for y'all on this podcast. I plan on doing it until I retire. And that's 62. And so I'll do it as long as I can, and so that's 7 more years if y'all can stand it. But we're going to keep educating. We're going to keep fighting because that's what we do. A lot of people hate the term the lions are coming. That's so cliche. I hate it. But, that's just kind of the mantra now. That's what we're going to do. I feel like we're training up those individuals that are going to be the new ones for this union. You look at Tyler Vasseur with Build a Fighting NALC. That movement is growing and getting stronger. A bunch of, youngins that are coming up. A lot of movements coming up right now. that are interested in fighting, militant, wanting to take back over this union and put it back in the hands of the city letter carrier. And that's exactly what's happening. You know, you have the CLC with James Henry, and it got stronger last week with some more additions to it. And those will come out later. But, you know, it's putting those fighters, those dogs together that have one thing and one thing only on their minds, and that is fighting for the city letter carrier. We've kind of lost our way a little bit on that. We've kind of went away from that, and the establishment has kind of taken over in a bad way. There's nothing wrong with an establishment. You know, establish yourself with fighters. That's a good establishment, right? But when it's people that have forgotten where they came from or have never been there, in the case of our president, they can be well-spoken and everything else, but that does not mean that they have your best interest at heart, as well-spoken as he is. And that's where we've been. A lot of educating over the last few years, a lot of ranting at management because they're not doing us right and they're dishonest. A lot of ranting at my union because they're not fighting for us. And that's just the way it is. So those things will continue, but I would love to get back to educating. And like I said, we'll do that next week, you know, starting next Sunday, 6-day count stuff. And we're going to handle that because I do not want y'all taken advantage of ever. Not one single second of one day do I want management to get over on y'all because I love you. You know, you're light blue to me. You're my family. And that's how I feel. And that's when I fight, you know, that's how I feel. A lot of people say, man, aren't you worried about the Postal Service coming after you or the union doing you somewhat kind of way? I love the city letter carrier. Whatever happens, happens, right? And so I will not stop. I know that. I will not stop fighting for the city letter carrier ever. And that's just how I am. And I'm going to surround myself with those people that are just like that. Make sure you're getting on Reddit. A lot of members on Reddit, and they're doing a lot of great work. Now, anybody can get on Reddit, so you'll have pros and cons, those that hate my guts, those that like me, and that's fine. You know, freedom of speech is a great thing. Reddit is a good thing, and they talk a lot about contractual issues, and a lot of debates going there. Discord, get on Discord. Now, what was so amazing about them was during the convention, they would have a whole chat going where people that were on the outside that weren't in there could get second-by-second updates. And it was a constant running of updates, which was absolutely awesome. And so Discord showed out during the convention. And so if you want to do something great, be around some great individuals, I went out to eat with a bunch of them. The first time we had seen each other. Get on Discord. Some fantastic individuals that do some absolutely amazing work. There's more and more podcasts coming out. A gentleman reached out to me saying he was going to start a podcast, educational. That is fantastic. I wish there was 1,000 of them, right? Because we need to reach 200,000 people. We need to reach 200,000 carriers and more, and educate them, not just on contractual issues and fighting grievances and what to request and things like that, but what's going on around them, you know? What's happening as far as the Postal Service, as far as the union. And so more and more podcasts are coming out, and I think that's absolutely incredible. I did an episode with Mr. Alan Gigax from Classes of Mail. That dude's a stud. He's a great educator, a great mind, a very funny individual. We had a great time. So the future is bright, man. I came away from the convention encouraged, extremely encouraged. I never had my head down. You know, a lot of those naysayers like the CLC, they got beat. I didn't get beat. I didn't get beat. I know that the president said we weren't going to do something and we made him do it. I know that. If you consider that a loss, I don't understand what your definition of a loss is, because when the president says something and we overturn it, to me, that's a win. All the CLC wanted was for the members to vote, and that's what happened. So that was a huge win, and people were not happy with that because they love the establishment. They want the president to be able to tell them exactly what to do, and they'll do it. No questions asked. You know, if the president told me to climb up on top of this building and jump off, I'm going to do it because he told me to do it. Well, no, I'm going to question that. If he tells me to jump off a building, I'm going to question that. I'm not a blind follower, nobody. And so that was a huge win for the CLC. we had the meet and greet on that Tuesday, the Tuesday morning. Had a huge room. It was packed. They came and kicked us out of that and sent us next door, a very tiny room, size of a shoebox. And so we were crammed out of that, which was extremely encouraging because you don't know what the response is going to be. This is a fledgling little movement. We've not been together but a few months. And so to see that response was incredible. It was incredible. Then after the convention on that day, we had the round table where we had members just tell who they are, what they're about. And you had some incredible individuals there that stood up. I got up and was talking, and the room was packed. And so that was encouraging because, like you said, you don't know. Are people going to latch on this early? You know, we got 2 more years until LA. You know, so we're just now starting, just now getting the word out. Just got a social media person that is taking over things, kind of getting the word out, because you got to get the word out to everybody. You know, you had 15% of the body vote this last time. I want about 60 or 70% to vote. Can we make that happen? Possibly. But that's through education, through word of mouth, through people getting excited about your movement. And so when I was talking, Hope Miles comes in and she says, "Hey, we got them lined up down the hallway." We couldn't see that. And so we just kind of stopped and was like, "Do what?" They're like, "Yeah, they're all the way down the hall." Man, that gives you goosebumps, you know, because you're like, people are latching onto this movement. They do want change. So we just took all the chairs up, stacked them up so everybody could come in. Here comes the fire marshal. "Hey, I'm fixing to shut this down." That's what he said. "Hey, I'm fixing to shut this down." The police were in the back, 3 or 4 of them. And I'm like, man, it's pretty sweet. This is pretty incredible. We gave the letter carrier a cheer because they said they're going to kick us out, you know. And so, but we just crammed in there, man. And he said, "Hey, just don't block these doors and y'all be all right." And so we carried on, man. And so the momentum of that will definitely carry on after that convention. It's just getting started. But people are wanting to see change. A majority. Some like it the way it is, and that is completely fine. If you like it the way it is, that's not a knock on you. You just like it the way it is. You don't want change, and that's fine. You think everything's going great, that is your right to feel the way you feel. Like I said, you vote however you want to vote. The only thing I will not tolerate is somebody being strong-armed how to vote when a lot of that happened. And that really pisses me off because as a free mind, I should be able to come in there without threat of consequence. And so that did happen. That did happen, and that was unfortunate. That was sad. But so that was a huge day for the CLC. I talked about Tyler Vasseur, and I talked about him to the Angry Mailman and to Mike Cariff, but the kids showed out, man, showed out. Mike Cariff had a huge win, and we talked about that. So that's kind of where we are. Now, what are we going to do in the future? We're going to keep educating, and that's a promise from me to you. I will not let you down. I will not. I told you way back when, I will not abandon you. I will not let you down. I will not leave. Regardless of what happens to me, I will not let you down. I will be there for you. I've always said, you message me and you need somebody to help you fight, I'll fight. I'll fight with you. So many people came up and said, "Hey, man, I messaged you last year, and did I get back to you?" They was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Good." Because I got a lot of emails, you know, that I'm trying to get to, and it's sometimes it's hard to get to all of them. But that was encouraging, people reaching out, because I don't want to abandon anybody, man. I will never turn my back on you, ever. I will never turn my back on you. We're going to be here, right, for the duration of it. Even after 2026, I'll be here up until I retire, and then that's my time, all right? So you're stuck with me for about 7 more years anyway. Anyway, let's get to these 2 guests. The first one is going to be the Angry Mailman. And then the second one is Mr. Mike Cariff, all right? So I'll get to the Angry Mailman now, and then I'll come in on the other end of it. I'll talk to you just a second, all right? So here's the Angry Mailman. All right, I've got the one and only, the Angry Mailman here today. I'm going to let him introduce himself. And I told him, man, just come on and say whatever you want to say. I know that he's got some things that's been on his mind. And so you there, my man?
Yeah, man.
All right, my brother, have at it. It's all yours.
Yeah, I just wanted to start by saying, Yeah, I've got a YouTube page, The Angry Mailman. My name's Matt Dover, and I wanted to start by, I wanted to talk a little bit about the convention, and then, I know that we need to move on uh, pretty soon from that because the votes are what they are. Um, I know a lot of people were frustrated, including myself, but um, I also wanted to talk about like we still don't have a contract. I'm here. I upload videos multiple times a week, and it's pretty clear that that is where majority of the frustration comes from. We're probably, I'd say 500 days past a contract and negotiating, still nothing. And there's a ton of people hurting financially due to inflation. I know Tyler Vasseur's wrote stories about how inflation's about 20% since our last contract. Then you look up and you see Renfroe getting a raise. You see stories of management getting raises, and you start to feel like we're getting shafted here. And I'm hoping the one good thing that has come from the convention, although the maybe the voting didn't come the outcome that we wanted, that since we are past that, if Renfroe was withholding some sort of contract information that maybe that was he thought that was his leverage, then hey, now he can release it. It's time. But I just want to let people know as well. I'm a big endorser of the CLC. I love the concerned letter carriers. I love what they're about, and I just want to let them know they made such a big push. I mean, they've only been together since I think 5 or 6 months since they met in Jacksonville, and you look at all of the all of just the people that come together to even go to the convention. And even though most of those votes were 2-1, in such a short time, it just shows how much momentum they have. And I just want to let people know the CLC, as you have said multiple times, it is coming. The momentum has really just begun. That was just a battle, but really the war is trying to make change there at the national level, trying to get James Henry, new business agents like yourself, and people in office in 2026. But it's going to take everybody because there's clearly still people that are going to defend Renfroe no matter what he has done, no matter what he will do. And it's going to take a lot of people in 2026. And as we know, the last election, I think the number was like only 15% of the people even voted. So
Right.
the biggest thing is we need participation. And if we do that, we'll win. But it's something I have learned through all of this is that if you want change at the national level, that really starts at your local level, because we've had some issues here. I'm in branch 62 here in Chattanooga, and there's been issues. There's been tons of grievances, that have been backed up, things like that. And I think a lot of people have that issue, but that starts with participation. We got offices without shop stewards, and because of that, you've got overburdened stewards and things like that. And so we have a meeting, the second Tuesday of every month, and I'll be there this Tuesday, and we're gonna go in there. We're gonna try to, make some changes, because I think it's important that we just get new blood in there, because the reality is so many of these people have been doing this for so long. They're stuck in their ways. They don't like changes. And that's my gut feeling up there at the convention, that people went in there and it didn't matter what they heard from the appeals. They were going to vote one way, and that was just the way it was going to be. So
Right.
it starts with everyone at the local level, make changes, and then hopefully that'll have an effect going up. So,
All right. Let's talk about your YouTube channel.
yeah.
I want to like and whatever you do with that. What do I do? What would be best for you? If somebody wants to say, hey, I want to get on Angry Mailman's YouTube channel, what's going to help you out?
So really, if you just get on there I also have a Facebook page, Angry Mailman, but the whole purpose of the Facebook page is some people aren't the biggest YouTube people, so I just share my YouTube video links to that Facebook page. So you can just like the Facebook page, and if I upload a new video, you will see it on your Facebook feed. So if you're not a YouTube person, just go like Angry Mailman on Facebook. But simply just like the videos. The whole point of the videos are to be educational, to try to inform people of their rights and things of that. And so if you just get on there and like the videos, that's it. Nothing more than that. And I hope I'm willing to help out as many people as I can.
Well, I respect the hell out of you for doing that. It's every Sunday I do an episode. I know you do several.
Yeah.
And I think that that's gaining momentum. You
Yeah.
see more and more podcasts coming out attempting to educate the carriers, not only on contractual issues, but hey, behind the scenes stuff. And I think that that's what's been attractive to a lot of city letter carriers, is because finally somebody's telling them, hey, this is what's going on behind the scenes. This is what's going on at the national level. And they probably wouldn't be privy to that. You talk about the contract. I just think it would be awful fishy if I get a contract this week. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
man, hopefully he didn't do that. I would hope that wouldn't be the case, that, he's fixing to drop a contract on us and to save himself from the convention. But, you hear a lot of talk about him in the convention saying that it's, looking to be in line with other unions. And I think a lot of city letter carriers are saying, hang on just a second. We need a monumental contract. It doesn't need to be in line with other unions. It needs to be monumental. I mean, we're doing that work like you were talking about. I always talk about COVID, when it shut the world down, here we are, still out there delivering that mail. Never missing a day unless we had COVID. We were here doing the things we needed to do for the American people, and we're never recognized at all. I think this contract could recognize us as far as that's concerned, about how important we are. You're talking about the essential worker. We were the essential worker we were the face of, COVID at that time. We were out every day walking up on porches, people seeing us and saying, hey, everything's going to be all right. The mailman is still coming around. Everything's going to be fine. That kind of gave some satisfaction to people, kind of that seeing us every day. And so hopefully, we'll get something that reflects that. We talk about the CLC, and I think it's funny when you get on social media and people are chirping about the CLC, the Lions come in, didn't accomplish anything. You weren't paying attention if that's what you came away,
Yeah, right. Exactly.
with the convention, because the whole thing that the CLC wanted to happen was that the appeals be heard one way or the other, vote one way or the other. However, if you, like I was saying on my episode the other day, if you educated yourself and you say, hey, man, we're going to exonerate this guy, or we're going to, vilify this guy, whatever. If you educated yourself and voted that way, that's what it's all about. And that's a beautiful thing. And so I applaud that. We wanted to make sure that the appeals were heard, because we had a president come out and say, it's my determination. I have decided that y'all will not hear these charges, the appeal. And when he did that, we're like, well, no, the people's the supreme body. They're going to hear these appeals. And so one of the most awesome things about the convention, and I know you heard about it, was seeing every one of those mics lit up for about 2.5 hours. They kept trying to avoid us. JB and I were at mic 8, right in the middle. I wanted to be right in the middle of that convention center, pushing that button. All my fingers went to sleep, but, I was pushing that button, for 3 hours, because we were there before, about 45 minutes to a half an hour before it started, to make sure that nobody got in place, in front of those mics. I thought that was awesome, looking around, seeing my people at those mics, just standing firm. And then that vote was overwhelming. I don't know why anybody would have voted to not hear the appeal. To me, you're saying that Renfroe has more authority, more power than the people. And that's what that vote was was saying.
Yeah,
So
and that right there, sorry, Corey, to interrupt.
No.
That right there is that's a dangerous game to play too, because if you set the precedent now that you say, oh, the leader can do what he wants,
Yeah.
then it really weakens the supreme body.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I thought that was bizarre. That to hear people yell out that they thought that, Renfroe has all the power. That is a dangerous, dangerous precedent. That vote should have been 100%.
yeah,
There shouldn't have been one person standing up in favor of not hearing those appeals. It had nothing to do with the CLC. We were just the ones at the mic. Nobody else was up there. We were the ones at the mic because we were saying, hey, look here, man, it's all about the city letter carrier. We are the ones who make the decisions, not the president of this union. You notice that he wrote the letter, he signed the letter. I heard that Paul Barner refused to sign the letter that he sent out. And so Renfroe took it upon himself. I'm going to be the one who decides what y'all do. This union can never be that way. It has to be the city letter carriers union. Now, everybody up on that stage makes their living off of our wages. And so it was quite shocking. So the ones who lost to me were the ones who voted against hearing the appeals. Those are the losers to me when I looked at it, and I'm leaving there and I'm like, there were actually people standing up saying, we don't want to hear the appeal because our president told us he didn't want to hear the appeals. That's shocking. And so to me, that was the loser. The losers were those individuals who said that the president is the supreme body. It was odd. It was odd to me, but a majority said, hey, the carriers are going to run this. And the appeal, those votes are what they are. You hear different things. But man, there's a movement going on. You know it. Everybody knows it. You'll have a lot of people coming out against it right now. And they'll be trying to downplay it. They'll be trying to dismiss it. The CLC is just a bunch of ruffians, just a bunch of assholes wearing black shirts. I was seeing that all over the place. You will have people attacking that, but here's the thing about that movement, and I'm sure that you're aware. You've spoken with Mr. Henry. I know that.
Yep.
Is that it's for the city letter carrier only. There are people, we got stronger this week because of some additions that I'm sure you'll hear about later. But it's about the city letter carrier only. When we had the meet and greet, and then later on that afternoon when we had, you could come and ask questions or whatever. The amount of people that showed up to me was shocking. I thought we'd get a pretty good response. I thought that there would be some good attendance. I had no idea it would be how many showed up.
Yeah, I seen some pictures from that. I couldn't believe
it was crazy. Because like you said, this is a fledgling little movement, man. We just started getting together.
Yep.
Some meetings and some stuff like that have happened. We've really not started to fundraise yet. That's still, in this beginning stages. Social media just started for it. Yep. And you already have that kind of response. I do think that the convention is made up of mostly, you have some retirees that refuse to give up, to give that stranglehold on the good old days,
Yep.
And they vote that way, kind of the establishment. But my man, this and Mike Cariff will be on later, and he's going to talk about it as well. We talked this convention. You finally saw the city letter carrier stand up to the establishment.
Yep.
That was what was so beautiful. When I left, I was not discouraged. I don't pay attention to what people say. Y'all lost. If you came away thinking we lost, you're sorely mistaken. The city letter carrier finally stood up, whether it was through the CLC, whether it's through Tyler Vasseur, whether it's through Mike Cariff Friday, that huge victory he had. What a big victory Cariff had Friday. And and he'll talk about that. But yeah, man, the reason I love your thing is because you're a city letter carrier.
Yep.
You're not the establishment. The establishment is what it is. We have to have them. We have to trust that they got our best interest at hand. But I don't like this establishment. I think that they're compromised. And that's the reason I've come out so vigorously against them, is that I think that they do not have the city letter carrier's best interest at hand. But that's the reason I appreciate what you're doing, is because you're saying, "Hey, look here, man. This is all about the city letter carrier."
Yep,
And
exactly.
I encourage anybody to get on a YouTube channel, man, and give that a listen. They're not very long.
No, no.
They're not
You know,
like 3 hours like mine.
hey, I don't know how you do it at times. I know there's a lot of talk to talk about, but I just, when you got three kids running around the house,
Right.
sometimes minutes are short. And
Right.
so you say what you say. And I'll say one more thing about my YouTube page.
Yeah.
In the description of every video, I have the CLC link, uh, concernedlettercarriers.com, if anybody would like to donate to that.
Yeah.
Also, I have the PO box information if anybody would like to send check and money order, because it costs a lot of money,
Oh yeah.
to have a president run. And also, yes, Tyler Vasseur has been great, and that building of fighting NLC. I've I've actually got his link as well if anybody wants to sign the petition for open bargaining in my description. And as we know, he took the stage talking about that at the convention as well.
Yeah. He's been on my episodes
Yeah.
several times. Very educated young man, a very good speaker. But man, he absolutely killed it Friday, when it came his turn on that mic. I mean, that dude put on a master class of education, putting up his position. I thought it was hysterical, the establishment coming after him. Now, here's a young man, I think he's 28. And he's started this kind of movement. He's kind of the face of that Build a Fighting
Yep.
NALC movement. Um, and to see the establishment run down there to those mics to go after him, I thought was an absolute beautiful thing, because here you have the city letter carrier standing in the face of the establishment. What a great picture that was to me. When you talk about fighting back, man, that was the ultimate visual. Is here's this young man, this young city letter carrier, 28 years old, standing up for what he believes in. Here's the mighty establishment, coming against him, and him standing firm in the face of that, baby, that gave me chills, man. And that dude flat killed it on that mic. And that's what I said on Discord. They were giving play by play, what's going on. They're talking about him. And I was like, man, this dude ain't the future. He's the present. Because he made a name for himself in those few moments he had at that mic. And everybody in there took notice, regardless of what the vote was.
Right, right.
The establishment will never want their business out in the street. That's just how they are. They want that shit private. And excuse me if your kids are in there, but
No, they're not. You're good.
all right. That's the last one. But I just thought that was the ultimate visual, man, and he did such a fantastic job. I reached out to him and let him know, but yeah.
Yeah, and you telling me that they ran down there to those mics tells me all I need to know. They're intimidated. They understand what's coming, and they're going to push back as much as they can. But
Yeah.
they know this isn't just some random guy walking down there. They understand. They seen how many people, 1,400, 1,500, how many ever people were voting against them. They
Yeah.
noticed it all. And
Yeah.
like I said, in such a short 5-6 month span, they understand how quickly it's growing, and they certainly know we're coming.
Yeah. You give me anybody that will stand up like that. And that's what I've always said. Win or lose, if I see you fighting for the city letter carrier, man, you got me 100%. You know what I'm saying? Standing in the face of the Postal Service, standing in the face of the establishment. I'm not anti NALC.
Correct.
I'm anti those that have forgotten where they come from. And that's this current admin. They have forgotten where they come from. But you had business agent after business agent after business agent after business agent coming down there against that man. And to see him stand firm and not waver, not budge, man, he was powerful. I loved it.
Yep. Love Tyler. And you said something right there where you had said you're not anti NALC. And that's honestly something I had to learn myself. When all these negotiation things started and Brian was just beating around the bush, it's like word salad everywhere he goes. There was a
Right.
lot of people who was telling me, and I even made this statement myself, that hey, maybe it's not a good time to join NALC. And there was a lot of people frustrated. And then then I talked on the phone with Mr. James Henry, and we had a long conversation, and that's when I realized, we have a problem in DC. But if we all leave the union, which look is anyone's right whatsoever, it's their dues, it's their money. Basically, you're just weakening the membership of us.
Yeah.
You're not really hurting the president. The only way we can change it is staying together, staying in this union, and that's how we can defeat what's happening in DC.
Exactly. When people reach out to me saying how frustrated they are, should we all just get out? No, no, don't do that, because, those dues pay for arbitration advocates.
Yep.
When I go to Memphis or wherever, that pays for me to go down there. You have to pay those dues. Unfortunately, it's going to people right now in Washington who have forgotten about us, but man, there's so much more than just paying their salary. And so, we have to have, that's the lifeblood of the NALC are those dues. You have to have them. So I would encourage anybody not to do that, not to get out of the union. But I get the frustration. If you could see the emails and messages that I get from people so frustrated, but man, 2026 is 2 years away, baby. We've got a long way to go. And the momentum right now is overwhelming. And so I'm really encouraged. I was never discouraged during this whole week. Only when people were sending me messages about their business agents getting involved with the vote. That did discourage me because the people are there to speak for the carriers, their members. They're not there to speak on behalf of the business agent. And so when you get involved, and I've got all the receipts, I see people on social media, to come out and say that's dangerous. I've got receipts, baby.
Yeah.
I keep those receipts, what people send me about the meetings they had, how the business agent said they'll be watching who stood up, how RGAs were sending out messages saying that they're killing their union careers and no upward mobility. To me, that's dangerous. I even had somebody send me a proposal that they're going to put in saying that any NALC leader caught trying to intimidate or whatever would lose their position. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
The reason I like it and I think it's funny is because if that's voted on at the next convention, that any NALC leader, NBA, whoever, is caught intimidating people for trying to vote the way they want to vote, that will be the funniest vote in history to see who's going to stand up against it because you're going to know who it was that was doing it. That should be 100% vote, but that will be the most hysterical vote in history is saying whoever's intimidating people against voting will stand up against that proposal. That would be funny. So, yeah.
Yep. Well, Corey, I appreciate you having me. As
Absolutely.
I always tell everybody, if you guys need something, I get tons of friends requests on Facebook, at Matt Dover. If you guys got any questions, ask me. I do mailbag videos all the time because, there's so many questions. I know I'm sure you get bombarded with questions all the time. So there's only so many I can answer at one time.
Yeah.
But it's pretty obvious to me that there's a lot of the same problems in a lot of places. So that's why I do the mailbag, just to try to help out as many people as possible. But you guys can check me out, on Facebook. Ask me anything you want, and I'll help any way I can.
All right, my brother. Matt, I love you, my man. I appreciate what you're doing for my people. You come on anytime, all right?
All right. Thank you, Corey.
All right, baby. We'll see you.
See you, buddy.
Bye. All right, so there's the Angry Mailman. He's got a YouTube channel, very active on that, loves the city letter carrier. I thought that was a good conversation, a very good conversation, because that's a city letter carrier that's concerned as well. A lot of people are concerned right now with the different things that are going on with our union. And, we bring light to those things so that they can't hide in the shadows. And I think that that's a huge kind of where we have turned to from arbitration. Now, of course, I'm going to get back to educating because that's what I love to do best. I don't like ranting. But we're going to shed light on the things of our union that they don't want light shed on. Okay. And so here's Mr. Mike Cariff, who had a huge week, especially Friday, had a huge victory. And we talk about that and kind of the dishonesty of our president during that entire situation. And so we'll talk about that. And now after him, I'll come back on and I'll holler at y'all then. All right, I got the one and only Mike Cariff. And man, we had a good week this week. It's good seeing you this week.
It was, my brother. It was, man. And
you had a good week.
I thought it went well. We although we started it that I first saw you on Sunday prior to the convention, and that event, man, it's sometimes it's the little things, but come on, you got the members are supreme in this union, right?
Yeah.
And people are spending all this money, their branches, to come out to Boston, and the rooms are expensive. Everything's expensive in Boston,
Except the meet and greet.
We're sitting on, hundreds of millions of dollars, that's our money, the members' money. And they put out these fucking, sorry to cuss, but these little bullshit hamburgers and, they weren't even good hamburgers and hot dogs. And, hey, no Sam Adams in Boston.
It was sliders and pigs in a blanket.
Yeah.
That's what we were eating. It was I didn't even touch it, and nothing against the people who prepared it. That it is what it is. But yeah, if there's one thing I heard the most of, more than anything else, it was what in the fuck is that meet and greet about?
It was crowded. It was poorly set up, and it was hard to move around. A lot of people left.
Yeah.
And it was just poor planning. And then you get into the convention, and the president did not plan for the charges to be heard, right? Mm-hmm. And when I say he didn't plan, meaning that you allocate time. So you say, I can only have a certain number of speakers because I got to allocate this time for the charges. And he writes this bullshit letter that hey, I can interpret the Constitution however I want. And the delegates overrode that. The CLC did a great job. I know you were right there at microphone 8. Wouldn't let me in. You and JB had the thing locked down.
Hey, is your head okay where I elbowed you out of the way?
Right.
Yeah. What are you doing back here? But y'all are right behind us. The Chicago.
We were ready to vote. We were let's get to it. Come on, call the vote.
It took about 3 hours. We held those buttons down. It was about 2.5 hours, I think.
Did you switch fingers? Because you had to keep holding that little button,
All my fingers were numb.
Right.
I don't know if you noticed at the end, I was laying on the ground, had my toes on it. Because it was like, my man is not going to call us, But I wanted to make sure I was right in the middle, right at number 8. Of course, that was where y'all were. And the whole time y'all are just like, keep standing. And that's what I kind of said on my
mics. They were like, call on the damn mics.
Yeah. And so it was getting hostile, but it was a beautiful thing, Mike. And that's the thing that shocked me is that people were saying, the CLC lost. You had a president come out and say, I am not going to have these appeals heard. They will not. That's what he said. They will not be heard. And you had people voting for that, saying that that's okay. That was what was shocking to me. So if anybody was a loser this week, it was those who said that the president can tell us what to do and we will bow down and do it. And so that's the only thing that the CLC, and I know that y'all are heavily involved, but the CLC standing up there for 2 hours at every single mic, 2 to 3, 4 people deep at every mic, because we're saying, hey, the city letter carrier, they're the ones who are going to run this. Not the president. That will never happen. And so it was kind of shocking to see the amount of people that stood up to say that the president can tell us what to do. To me, those are the ones who are the losers, not the CLC and not the city letter carrier. And you and I talked a lot about this, but this is the first convention. And you said that, yesterday you and I ate lunch and you're saying you've never seen it like that, to where this many teller votes, this means that the city letter carrier showed up and finally stood up to the establishment. And I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yep. I remember when I first started coming to conventions in 2000, my branch has always what we call vote in block. And the vote in block is not to take away someone's democratic right. Obviously, any delegate to the convention can vote however they want. on anything that comes to the floor. But we've always felt that we're more powerful or more influential as a group versus everyone going their separate ways. It weakens it waters down your influence, you know? Mm-hmm. And if we come to the convention, we want to have as much influence as we possibly can, just like any other delegate that comes or any branch or whatever. And when I first started coming to the convention, we would vote in block, but we would always vote exactly the way the chair of the convention, when it was Vince Sombrado back then, you know, wanted us to vote. And hey, you know, maybe Vince Sombrado was leading us correctly, and you know, maybe that was the right vote to make. But if you vote for the chair every single time, then what's the point of you even showing up? You know, right. you no longer, they take you for granted. You no longer have any influence because your vote is taken for granted and counted automatically. Whereas I thought my president, and a lot of people have been talking about this, but Elise Foster, wow, yeah. She had a great week.
she did good.
She did great in leading us.
Yeah,
we caucused almost, I think every day we caucused, and she just told the members, hey, let's discuss these things that are going to come to the floor, and how do you guys want to vote on these things? And then once we come to an agreement on how we want to vote, let's all stand together. So now you know that, you know, we had about, I think, 130 delegates. So it's like, hey, if you want to convince us, then come talk to us so that you can get 130 votes, not just one.
Yeah.
And I think Elise did really well, and she was a powerful voice at that convention. Hell, and I'm not saying she by herself, but we amended the Constitution.
Yeah.
that just doesn't happen. And that was a vote on whether or not a person could retain or renew their membership when they're retired. And it was a little bit of gamesmanship coming from the front. And I don't know if everyone caught that, but the language in the Constitution already says retain. So a person who is not a member of the union, let's say they're a scab or they end their career, they're not a member of the union, they can never join the union as an annuitant. Never. The language in the Constitution doesn't allow it. It only allows someone to retain their membership if they were a member as an active carrier paying full dues. And so all we wanted to do to amend the Constitution was to say that a person could retain their membership at any time. So you don't have to submit the 1189, the retiree form, to join the union at the point of retirement. Let's say you forget, let's say something's going on, you come back a year later, 2 years later, as long as you were a member of the union at the time that you left the Postal Service, then you could become a member of the union as a retiree, as an annuitant. It was a simple change in the Constitution, but it affected people that, you know, may have let it slip through the cracks, but, you know, they were honorable members in good standing that wanted to be a member of the union in retirement. And, you know, these are the people that paved the way for us. These are the people that paid their dues for 30, 40 years, you know, and anyway, Elise was able to win that vote, overturn the chair, and the members were able to, you know, usually the Constitution is only amended with like a recommendation of our attorneys or, you know,
yeah,
the president makes a recommendation or something, but to have a branch president, you know, submit that resolution, argue for, I mean, that constitutional amendment, and then fight for it and get the Constitution changed. I thought that was awesome. And that happened on Tuesday morning.
Yeah. And you know, it's all about the spin. You know, it's all about, you know, because they said, I think it was Gary Mullins. Is that who went down there with the cowboy hat?
You know, I don't remember exactly who won all of those things, but it was, the other ironic thing was the president, you know, claims to speak for the, you know, majority or whatever, but he couldn't get anyone to speak on his behalf except for like retired officers of the union. And, you know, nothing against those people, great people, I'm sure, you know what I mean? I'm not, we're all in the union. We all have the right to speak on anything, but you would think that if you're promoting the right agenda, that you would have branch presidents from all over the hall, you know, man, loud motorcycle. You would think that you would have presidents from all over and rank and file members going to the mic to support your position, but that just didn't happen all week, man. If it wasn't for retired officers and current MBAs, you know, speaking against a lot of the resolutions that we were putting forward, there wouldn't have been nobody to talk
Yeah.
against that stuff, you know?
I just thought my man Gary, who I respect the hell out of, he's done his time. He was powerful, but he was railing against him, man. He said, over my dead body. Remember, that's the last thing, over my dead body, and then got beat. But yeah, she did a fantastic
we
job.
love the brother. We don't want him, we want him alive, no doubt about it. But we still want to vote.
Absolutely, man. And vote how you want. And it's funny that you say that about, voting in block. And people were, saying that I was making shit up when I was talking about MBAs influencing the vote. And I said I had receipts, and I sent you some of those receipts.
Yeah.
Where people were saying that their MBA said, we're watching how you vote. Some of them were so afraid they got up and left. And they were telling them that their careers would be over with, if they vote against how, the MBAs tell them to vote. RGA's getting involved with the vote. And I sent you, I know you read them, right?
Well, I saw that you sent me the one text.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And so those are pouring in. That to me is borderline criminal, to do that to somebody, because you're there to represent.
Sure.
Yeah, to represent the city letter carrier.
I think that, obviously everyone, it's a democratic organization, right? And there's a fine line there, but there's a clear line between asking people to support you on something versus threatening them or telling them that there'll be some type of negative consequence if they don't. I mean, I'll tell you, and I don't think it's a secret. There were people they work in my office. They work for me. They are appointed by the national president, but generally day to day, they work for me. They voted a different way on some of the different things that came up than I voted.
Yeah.
And I know some of the people in my branch were like, what kind of operation you running over there?
Yeah.
And I said, I'm running the Democratic one.
Exactly.
These are members of the union, and what I didn't want anyone to do is to vote a certain way because they felt pressure or they felt like there was going to be some type of consequence if they didn't vote that way. Now, if you legitimately feel a certain way about a certain vote, that's how you should vote. You should vote the way you think, what is the right thing to do for the union. And there was certainly people that, for instance, on the charges that voted to uphold the decision of the executive council and not find him guilty. And the reason why they did that was because they felt that was the right thing to do for the union or whatever. And if they did that, hallelujah, that's what you're supposed to do.
Exactly.
I accept that. If there were people that voted because they felt pressured to do so, or they felt that there was going to be some type of negative consequence if they didn't do that, then shame on them. Shame on a person for implying that or giving you that type of pressure, and shame on you for not standing up for yourself. You're a delegate to the convention. You're sent there by the members of your branch, your brothers and sisters, and they expect you to vote, in the way that's right for the union, not in a way that's right for you personally. Now, President Renfroe, I hope, and there's people that are saying, well, he's going to be retaliatory against people that didn't vote his way, coming up, like in the next week, 2 weeks, the next month or whatever. And I don't know that to be the case, and I hope that's not the case. I really hope that's not the case. But, President Renfroe, when he came into office, he immediately fired 2 of the RAAs. And it was 100% for political reasons.
Yes.
I've been saying forever that, we do need to look at who works for us. It can't be a lifetime achievement award, right? Like there's reasons to, quote, fire. And when I say fire, I put in quotes because all they're doing is going back to being a letter carrier, which is, we're all letter carriers, right? So you're not firing them. You're not putting them out on the street. You're not leaving them destitute and without income, They're just going back to their routes or going back to their, their letter carrier duties. But anyway, he did fire 2 for political reasons because they ran against, his ticket. And he was trying to send a message, but the message he sent was an undemocratic one. It was a message that although the Constitution says any member can run for any position, if you do so, there'll be negative consequences. And if he carries that same mindset with the vote that happened at the convention this week, then I guess he's going to do the same thing with the people that didn't vote his way. He can't do nothing with the elected representatives like myself. I'm elected by the members. You can't do shit to me. But There are people, tons of people that are appointed, and I just hope, and I wouldn't say proud because this is the way a president should operate, but I would hope to see that our president doesn't do anything stupid like that and retaliate against someone because they voted how they felt at the convention. So
Well,
we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, I think, you see with Henry, with Jackson, like you said, with those two at the business state's office, it's kind of
He didn't exactly fess up to that though, did he?
What about that?
Yeah, he said it was for other reasons that he took James, Vice President James Henry, out of his position overseeing the dispute resolution process.
But tell people.
What's that?
We're putting your business in the street. Tell us why.
He told us. I mean, he said what he thought his motivation was. If we believe that or not, I don't know. But he did give a reason there. But
yeah, I'm like you. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's awfully coincidental, right? That
Yeah.
decision happened right at that time, But okay.
But going back to that, on that morning, I put that post up on social media, and I said, today we will be strong and full of courage, because that's what it takes, Mike. If you're going to make change, it's going to take those to be strong and full of courage that are going to stand up in their business says, look, your career with the union will be dead if you do this. I'm going to be strong and full of courage, and I'm going to stand up in the face of it. And whatever you want to do it. I'll go back to delivering mail, but I know that I'll be delivering mail with a smile on my face because I chose to be courageous and I stood for what I thought was right. Nobody will ever tell me how to vote. That just will never happen. And so, unfortunately, it looks like, there was some involvement, but, like you say, and everybody else saying, hey, that's over with, Can't change what's done. We got to move on and heal ourselves, and we will. And that's the thing about it.
There were a lot of lessons that we learned, and I think you alluded to the conversation we had, I think yesterday at lunch.
Yeah.
And it was, I've been coming to conventions a long time. A lot of people have been coming to conventions. Even a brother from Branch 79, Virgilio, I think that's how you pronounce his name, but he stood up at the beginning and said, wow, there's so much more debate at this convention, not like Chicago. Chicago was, whatever. And the people behind me, they're like, what are you talking about Chicago? And then he comes back later and he's like, I wasn't saying the city. We love the city, but the convention itself, and for a lot of years and a lot of conventions, you just feel like there's not a whole lot of business being transacted, right? There's not a lot of decisions being made, and it's just hold dumb and status quo and that kind of thing. Well, you didn't feel that at all at this convention. You felt like, wow, these people are, when Chris Jackson started when Fred opened up the hearings on the charges, you got at least 5,000 people in the hall, and you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
Right? You can hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
With that many people, no side conversations, no nothing. We're here for the business. So I think that was a huge win this week. The engagement. They asked how many new people are here. I was surprised. I thought, and this is kind of anecdotal, I thought it was more new people at the convention than we've had in past conventions. Yeah. But there was a lot of action. I thought that we proved that where we stick together and where we mobilize, we can win votes.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people with different opinions and a lot of different groups, but all of the people that think that the status quo needs to change, meaning that the union needs to get more aggressive with the Postal Service, that we need to fight harder for the members, we need to file more grievances, we need to do more rallies, we need to, all of the things that are around this whole concept of change and building a fighting NALC. There's a lot of people that feel that, and there's different groupings and things like that. But where we came together, where we coordinated, where we discussed ahead of time so we were prepared, we were able to win. And one of those places where we didn't, and I'm just going to flag this, people still have their resolution books. I was on the plane sitting next to a brother. He was still making notes on his resolution book,
Right.
Hey, man, convention's over, But if you study your resolution book, so if you go in your convention, if your resolutions book to amendment number 5, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Amendment number 5 on page 156 of the book. It is a constitutional language on duties of the president. And this constitutional amendment would change the duties of the president, I think, in a positive way. We should reintroduce it in 2026 and hopefully get it passed. And we're gonna have, and I blame myself. I didn't whip the votes. I didn't get around and, make sure that everyone was paying it. You got people to leave the hall, you got whatever. So it kind of fell flat. It got some support, but not enough to pass. But what it says is that the president will have the authority and responsibility for carrying out collective bargaining duties of the union. We didn't change that. Of course, you elect the president. They're in charge of collective bargaining. They may designate such members of the bargaining committee as they choose. We didn't change that. The president is going to utilize lawyers, staff, actuaries, economists. They're going to utilize whoever they want, right? However they see fit. That's fine. They should. And then we added a line that, and this would have been the change to the Constitution, that each member of the executive council or their designee shall be part of this bargaining committee and be present and or debriefed during any negotiations with the employer. And that is one aspect, at least, of the open bargaining, which says, one, we need transparency. Two, we need to involve the public. That's the way I see the open bargaining movement. And this would permanently accomplish that by altering the Constitution. Whoever the hell the president is, they are not going to be able to conduct secret negotiations with the Postal Service. They have to at least involve, either be present or debrief, the elected representatives of the union or their designee. To me, this was something I wish we would have been able to pass, but we weren't able to kind of whip the votes together, and it fell to the wayside, along with a lot of other stuff. There was good resolutions out there that we were not able to pass, but there was one we did pass, and I know that's what you want to talk about.
But going back to that other thing, a lot of people that say, y'all spend all of our money and just go up there and it's one big party. It was a grind all week. Dude, inside that convention, wasn't it? It was a grind.
Exhausted at the end of the week.
Hey, it was mentally exhausting, man, because it's a grind. Because first off, know what you're talking about. You're looking at all these amendments, all these things, and you're studying that. Does this benefit the city letter carrier? Does this benefit the ones who sent me up here? And then there's this debate. A lot of clutter. That's one thing that I think he did kind of poorly. Was I'll give it to him on the appeals. He was well versed. They had him coached up well. He was very deliberate in his approach, and so you could tell that he
wore out that pencil or whatever he had in his hand. But
that
other than
pen,
that,
I want to know what kind of pen that is because I'm going to buy some. that was he was working it, son. But
now I give the president credit. And you've said it, and a lot of people have taken the shot at him that, hey, this brother's only done one arbitration in his career, this and that, but looked like he might be pretty good at arbitration.
Well, he was coached well. You could tell that they, if he was, I still couldn't use him as a witness, Mike, because not once did he say I was wrong, and not once did he apologize. Matter of fact, I took offense to when he was talking about the DUI. When he says, I don't agree with them finding me guilty and I don't agree with the penalty they set against me. That would have been a good time to say, you know what? I was wrong.
Yep.
I was wrong there. I accept whatever they did. He did kind of say that, and but not one time was he ever remorseful. And that was one of the biggest things that I kept saying is the cat is incapable of remorse, showing remorse. But the one thing he failed on.
Before I forget, I want to jump in with this. Even the panel, which you and I and a lot of people, I know Chris Jackson, said they were unobjective, particularly the chair of the panel. There were some things, the way they ran those hearings that I didn't like. Mm-hmm. I thought they were too strict on certain things and too, anyway, it's some things about the way they ran the hearings. It didn't give you all the information that you needed. To me, it's not an arbitration. It's not a criminal proceeding. It's a method for the members to know everything so that the members, starting with the executive council and then the delegates, if they don't like the decision of the executive council, the members can decide what they want to do. And to me, the hearings should be set up like that. A continuation of the fact-finding mission, make sure that everything is on the record and that kind of thing. But that's not exactly the way they ran the hearings. And I got a problem with that. But even the panel recommended that he be reprimanded and that he be censured officially in the publication of Postal Record, I think on the website. And that then they added a line in there that, hey, this may negatively affect him when he runs for re-election next time, or if he tries to run for re-election in 2026. And to me, that was important because, while he's saying I did nothing wrong, that's not true. You can kind of have a debate about how severe his, misconduct or whatever you want to call it was, but to say he didn't do anything wrong, and for him to say I didn't do anything wrong, to me, I still got a problem with that. And then, he had a couple things in there that were real kind of head scratchers. I never missed any days of work. I only drank at night. And I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
You telling us you have this debilitating disease, and it physically took over you, and you had to get help, and all that is fine. Yeah. But if all that is true, then you got to admit that we, the membership of the union, suffered as a result of you having this disease.
Yeah, I think
and that's just a fact. That's just a fact, and nobody's perfect. And maybe we give you a pass. Maybe we say, I understand, brother. I mean, hey, I'm not like at 100 every day of I'm your business agent here in Region 3, and I'm sure there's days where you say, shit, Mike, I'm not sure we got our money's worth out of you today, Right. And maybe we, as long as I'm honest about it, and I'm working for the members, and I have good days and bad days, and hey, you got a disease. We understand that. But the fact that he never came forth and was honest and just said, hey, I had this disease. It did hurt the members. It did hurt collective bargaining. And I thought that was the main thing, man. Here we are sitting without a contract. You're stringing us along. This is going to be 2 weeks. We're this close. It's hour by hour. And it's all this kind of bullshit. And meanwhile, the members are suffering under the terms of a shitty contract. So many people have left the post office because they're tired of waiting on you to get us a decent contract, which we have no idea if you even will be able to accomplish that. But at least, do this thing in a timely fashion so that if you do get us a contract, we can vote on it, yes or no. And if we don't like it, then we have a chance to go in front of an arbitrator. And if you can't get a contract, then take us in front of an arbitrator. But we could have went in front of an arbitrator as of July 20th of last year, but you got a late start, due to your alcoholism, and it wasn't a smooth transition. Yeah, the executive vice president took over, but they had to start over from scratch because you didn't get us started. And then you come in and take over at the end of June, and it's like we're starting all over again, and this thing is just going on and on and on and on. Yeah. So at least admit to us that did harm the union. I'm sorry. I never want my personal deficiencies to hurt the members of the union. And if you would tell us that, I would have been the first one to say, all right, brother, let's leave the past in the past, and let's go forward together as a union. But it was good that we were able to hear the thing. Like you said, it was great that we made sure that the delegates, the supreme body of the union, had their say, and we had our say, whether you agree with it or disagree with it. Yeah, the fact that we had our say was great.
Well, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. The body voted. However it came out, it's a win for the city letter carrier that the body voted. The putting your hands in it, whatever. Hopefully we can deal with that at a later date with some kind of resolution. But I thought that he did a good job of picking times to be dishonest. Because, you had the 20 minutes you could put on your case, 5 minutes each for rebuttal. Right. He would go last. Well, that was where he would choose to be dishonest because you could, in arbitration, he couldn't do that.
No. You know what reminded me of?
What's that?
I had a management rep when you go to arbitration, they want to do a brief.
And put it all in the brief.
They want to do a brief is because they know you can't respond to the damn thing.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that.
That's the reason, Mike, I hate doing briefs, but anytime I do an oral closing and management says we're going to do a brief, I'm going to use Article 15. I'm going to say I want to do a reply brief to address any, new argument or whatever. Yep. And I will always be granted. It's for that reason. It's because they're so dishonest that they'll start putting all these new arguments in their brief. Well, he chose a good time to be dishonest because he was in his rebuttal. He was always dishonest. When he's talking about with James Henry when he was saying that Chris Jackson was catching him being dishonest quite often, but and he's saying that he had these meetings scheduled with James Henry, but James Henry had a doctor's appointment, so they couldn't. What he didn't say was James Henry said he'd come in at 5:30 in the morning, and he didn't do it.
Dude, I saw the email. What James told him was, I don't want to misquote it, but it was something like, "I need to meet with you, and right now is not soon enough." Something like that.
Yeah.
And so you have this period of time, and obviously, like President Renfroe said, he was in a bad place at that time, and I get this part. Not to say he couldn't have still met with him, but according to his testimony according to his statement at the convention, he was never not able to perform his duties during the day. So according to him, he was perfectly capable of meeting with James during the day, and he never did. But then he goes into rehab, gets treatment. He comes back without meeting with him, meaning that, you could have called him up ahead of time. Before he came back as the president, he was sending out emails. He was back. He didn't physically come back into the building until whatever day that was, but he was back prior to that. And even when he came back and physically was in the building, it was a few days before the charges came, and he claimed, after the charges came, we all had to lawyer up, and which I don't believe that either. I think that's bullshit. It's not a criminal investigation, dude. Relax.
No,
it's just internal within our fraternal organization. You're raising issues or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, he presented it that he was really trying to meet with James, and that's the lie. If you were really trying to meet with the brother, you would have been able to meet.
You're the president.
Yeah, exactly.
You can meet. Another thing I thought was funny is you talk about the disinterested panel, and you got Weiner, who's the head of it, right? And I've said, man, come on here and let's talk about this panel report, in front of everybody. There's an email out there where he resigned off of some committee, election committee or something from where he's at. I think Minneapolis or something like that.
Okay. I don't know about that one, but okay.
Yeah, but this is before all this happened. And he talks about how much he knows Renfroe. I know his mind, and I know his heart, and he's such a great guy and all this stuff here. Then he comes out later and said, I don't really know Renfroe. I don't really know him that well. So the man's dishonest. But what's funny is that you have this vote on Monday about the appeals, and they overturned President Renfroe. They said, we're going to hear the appeals. The next morning, Weiner comes up to me, and I don't know if anybody saw us talking right there, right in the entrance of the convention hall. Okay. He comes up and he's talking to me. He seeks me out, and he comes up to me. He's like, that was a huge win for everybody yesterday, to hear these appeals. That was so good to see that. And he starts talking all this shit, up to me, and I'm looking at him like, come on, baby, but he's like, it was so good to see the body stand up and say they're going to hear these appeals, because I agree with that. They should hear these appeals and everything. Hell, this motherfucker after the convention was on social media talking about the CLC came in like lions and left like lambs. I was like, motherfucker, you're standing right there in front of me, kissing my ass about these appeals. And then when you get back behind this keyboard, you're going to talk about came in like lions, left like lambs. Now, this is the disinterested member, right? So I thought that was funny.
Well, anyone could and should have made their opinion known. So I don't know how people voted, but to me, it was a no-brainer. And if it was a no-brainer, who told President Renfroe ahead of time, hey, man, that letter is bullshit, And I would say, I would assume that Paul Barner was one of them.
Yeah.
And I'll give him credit for that, because obviously it would have been better, optics wise, for that type of letter to come from the EVP, not the person against whom the charges are, but against the second in command. The fact that Paul Barner didn't write that letter leads me to believe he told President Renfroe, no, I'm not writing that letter, right? So whoever came up to anyone afterwards and said, good job, I'm glad we heard this thing, I would have liked to hear from them ahead of time. But you could make your voice known in any number of ways. We had multiple meetings of the executive council. Nobody brought it up and said, hey, Mr. President, this is bullshit. I agree. Look, I agree with you that the charges don't have merit. But for you to say that a person doesn't have the right to appeal to the supreme body of the NALC, I mean, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear nobody say that, but there could have been private conversations. I don't know. But, everyone has these platforms. They can go on Facebook. They can go on, whatever.
Yeah.
And I didn't see a whole lot of that, And then after we win the vote, then people say, oh, yeah, it's a good thing we had the vote. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where were you at on Sunday prior to the convention? Like I said, we're just kind of paying attention to everyone. But certainly if the people that voted, and I think the majority of the executive council, but certainly not everyone, voted to hear the charges.
Yeah.
Which was good.
It was encouraging. Yeah.
Yeah, it was encouraging.
I think that, and we're going to get to your stuff now. One of the things that showed Renfroe's dishonesty and his intentional dishonesty
I know where you're going.
is your vote. It was one of the greatest moments it may be the single greatest moment of the convention to me. Tyler Vasseur was as well, and I've talked about that a lot. I love the CLC.
You have that video, by the way, the video when he went up there to talk about the open bargaining resolution.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
No, I posted it. I saw a couple people saying, hey, we'd like to see the video, and I just kind of put it in the comments. But
yeah,
you can put it up on your platform.
Yeah, I've got several people send it to me.
Yeah, okay.
But to me, it showed his complete dishonesty in front of the entire crowd. Your vote, and talk about your vote. Talk about what happened first, and then we'll talk about that, because it was, to me, it was maybe the single greatest moment of the convention to me was that, because how the crowd turned on him during that time. So go ahead and say what happened, what you're requesting, the vote, and then we'll talk about the vote, about some people who stood up to talk. I was afraid one was having a medical emergency, and I'm not kidding. I'm not being funny.
No,
I thought the guy was having a medical emergency, and I think that was guilt getting a hold of that person. But go ahead and say what happened, and then we'll talk about it.
So this is an issue that I guess I've been fighting with President Renfroe for a long time, and maybe even when Fred was the president. And so we have a dispute resolution memorandum, DRP memorandum, that's in the JCAM. So it's part of the contract. And in the memorandum, it outlines what the parties are supposed to do when there's a backlog of grievances at DRT. And the backlog is when you have the grievances more than 14 days. And so the grievances, there's time limits all throughout the grievance process, and there's a time limit at step B as well. So, if you try to meet with your supervisor and they don't want to meet with you, you have to move that grievance. You have 14 days to meet, you have 7 days to appeal. And we always encourage our stewards and our branches, move those grievances. Because why? Because it's our grievance, right? And it's always in management's interest to not hear the grievance. They did whatever they wanted to do, and you're stuck dealing with the results until we can get a grievance decision and rectify it and get the right remedy and fix it, right? So our grievances are our grievances. They're never their grievances.
Yeah.
And so we have this joint process that we forced them into. They didn't voluntarily agree to the joint process. They were forced into the joint process, and their part of the joint process is to make sure that their grievances are heard within 14 days. And if they don't have enough, if they're not able to do that with the permanent teams that we have about 57 permanent teams around the country. If you're not able to do that with the permanent teams, then you have to activate backup teams. And the language in the DRP memo is where there is a backlog and where the parties agree, meaning the national business agent and the area labor relations manager from the area, where they agree that there's a backlog and there's a need to activate backup teams, that they will do so immediately. And then it goes in where they have available people to put in. And it goes on to define available. Available is defined as you're certified, meaning you had to step B training on either side. And part two, that you still work for the Postal Service, And so a lot of times when we go to activate backups, one of two things happens. One, the Postal Service will tell me, I would activate this person, but now they have another job with the post office. They've been elevated to the postmaster. They've been, they work in such and such department. And my response to that is, you are required to staff this DRT appropriately so we can hear the grievances in 14 days. And if so-and-so moved on to a higher position, you no longer want to use them at the DRT. That's your choice, as long as you have somebody else that is trained and still working for the Postal Service, right? Because we've already determined that you have this person available. You don't want to use Johnny Smith and they're available, then you better have Samantha ready, for when we have a backlog and you put them in. And it works on both sides, right? Same thing for me. Me as the national business agent, for example, I'm DRT trained. I work for the post office. I'm available. So in order for me not to have to put myself into the DRT, because I want to, serve you guys as the national business agent, I got a lot of shit to do, with that job. In order for me to be able to do my job as the business agent, I got to make sure that I have people that are trained, that are ready and available to be used as backup. So that's the first problem. The second problem is they will agree that there's a need to activate backups, and it's usually on the union side. Like I got John Poskin. You guys know John Poskin. He's come on your show a couple of times. He's DRT trained. He works, normally at his office delivering mail. And when I need to activate him, I say, we have a backlog. Let's get John Poskin in there in the DRT. And sometimes that works, and sometimes the manager tells me, the labor relations person, hey, I reached out to John Poskin's postmaster, and guess what? They won't release him. They need him. It's the day after the holiday, or they need him this week. And, they said next week they'll let him go, but they won't let him go this week. So in other words, they're not following the terms of the memorandum, meaning the Postal Service is not following the terms of the memorandum. So long story short, our resolution, and before we even submitted the resolution, we had a letter that 35 branch presidents in my region signed on to. And we demanded that when we have the circumstance where the Postal Service refuses to activate backup teams that are available, that the national president, only the national president has the authority under the terms of in Article 15, the national president file a grievance to enforce the terms and force the Postal Service to activate the backup people that they do have available where the need exists. So the president wrote a letter. Paul Barter sends us back a letter, basically, hey, we're doing everything we can to fix the DRP problems, but we're not gonna file a grievance. And the presidents were like pissed, they're like, what do you mean you're not gonna file a grievance? We got our grievances sitting here, sometimes up to 8 months. We got different teams. We send our grievances to about 6 different teams, and some of them, the backlog is about 30 days. Some of them, like I said, is been up to like 8 months. So we're fighting to get activated, in our national president, who, the president works for the members, right? It works for us. And hey, it should be nothing like, it should be nothing more than me sending an email or placing a phone call to my president and say, hey, I need a little backup, go in there and file a grievance, put some pressure on these people, right? So then when I go to my counterpart, I can tell my counterpart, hey, you can work with me, or my president's going to file a grievance, right? You're going to have to hear from him. And, that's the kind of backup that we need. That's the kind of backup I'm going to give to the presidents and, the local branch presidents. That's the kind of backup that my local branch presidents are going to give to their stewards on the workroom floor, right? They want to know that our union has our back. And he's been refusing to do that. And they wrote the letter, sent us a letter back, which was garbage, in my opinion. And so anyway, the Illinois State Association, which is, umbrella over all of the different branches, passed out a copy of the resolution to all of the delegates at the convention last week. And so we're talking to people all over the country like, hey, let's get this thing passed, And we had really no idea how it was going to turn out. So we put forth the resolution. There's some argument back and forth. I thought we did really well presenting the thing. And but I know how hard it is to go against the chair, right? And I'm like, all right, let's see how this turns out. So he calls for and they do this weird, man. And I don't know, maybe it's just always been done this way, but it's weird. If you submit a resolution, you should be voting, are you in favor of the resolution, yes or no? But instead, they do it backwards. I guess it gives you a better chance to win. Are you in favor or not in favor of the executive council's recommendation? And the executive council's recommendation was one of disapproval. So are you in favor of upholding the decision or the recommendation of the executive council of disapproval? All those in favor of that say aye. And I'm listening, right? Aye. And I'm like, shit, that didn't sound too much, you know? And then, you know, all those opposed, you know, no.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, oh shit, we won that thing. And I was like, wow. Yeah. So then he acts like he can't hear, right? He had just looked. It was like, you could tell he was like, how did this happen, right? Because I mean, honestly, within the executive council, he's been, you know, saying how ridiculous our resolution was, for lack of a better word. And so anyway, I guess he didn't think it had a chance to pass. And then, so he calls for another vote, right? Another voice vote. And once again, I mean, it was even more louder, you know? No. Oh, shit. He's like, oh, I can't really tell. We're going to have to, you know, call for a division, stand up and sit down, you know? Same thing happens, right? You stand up and you're like, that's not that many people. All those against, you know, way more people stood up, you know? And you're like, oh, it's obvious. Come on. And he's like, oh, I can't tell. We got to go to a teller vote. Oh, really? Now you can't hear. Now you can't see, you know? It's like, come on, dude. And I forget, what was the result of the teller vote? We won it by like 600-700, right? It wasn't close.
It was more than that.
More than that. Yeah, it wasn't close.
Yeah, no,
it was not close.
But that was the single greatest moment, because it was his dishonesty on full display, and everybody saw it. They started booing him. I don't know if you could hear that.
Yeah.
They're booing him, but because we'll talk about the vote and what happens. So you get an opportunity. The executive council turns down what you submitted, so you can speak on it. You get an opportunity to speak on it, to tell the people, this is why I did it. This is why you should vote.
It was 13-17 to uphold the executive council and 22-54 against.
Okay.
So yeah, it was almost 1,000 vote difference. Like I said, it was not close.
Yeah. And so you get an opportunity to say, hey, this is why we did it. And here's one of the things that it pissed me off about it. All week, people had run out of time, and he said, I'll give you a little bit extra time to finish. You remember that? He'd be like, your time is up, but go ahead and finish your point. When you were speaking, he said, your time is up. That's it.
I don't even know if I got the full 3 minutes, because, you know, the resolution comes from the branch. So my president, Elise Foster, gets up to the mic and she's like, you know, we're the maker of the motion. You know, Mike's a member of the branch. He's the national business. He's going to speak on it. So I don't know how many seconds that took, but, you know, I think I got shaved by that much, because I don't know. I can kind of keep time in my head, but it's not 100% accurate. But I was like, damn, that was 3 minutes already. Yeah. But I said, that's okay. You'll hear more, because I knew people were ready at the mics to speak on it, you know?
Because it's like, you know, he's such a smart ass. He's going to come back on him. And sure enough, you got to turn around and get your last little shot in, you know, when you walk away. But then you have a business agent. Here comes the business agents again, just like with Tyler Vasseur. Here they come, you know, speaking against you, you know, and for the executive council. The first individual got up there, Mike, and I thought he was having a medical emergency. He was shaking. I've never seen anybody shake like that in my life. And he wasn't sweating. So I'm thinking, you know, this dude might be fixing to hit the ground. I mean, because it was bad. And I don't know if you saw it.
I think it was 3 business agents that spoke against it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he was the first one. And I was like, you know, that's guilt.
The irony of it, man. The resolution, you look at the wording of it, it ain't requiring nobody to do nothing. It's if you, the business agent, want the president to file a grievance, he or she will, right? Like, if you don't want to file a grievance, if you just want to like keep up the conversation, or maybe you don't have anybody that you can put in, so you don't want to push the issue, I'm not in your business, you know? Yeah. You run your region the way you want to run it. You have your strategies and things that maybe work for you. I was just saying, in the case where where they're refusing to activate backups, and I want you to file a grievance as my president, you're going to do that. And that was all. What's wrong with that, man?
And the second business agent got up and was completely dishonest. And your B team guy cooked him, and he came up.
He was talking about that basically that the central area was being reasonable. And like I said when I talked, it's not that the person's a bad person. It's just that within the hierarchy of the Postal Service, they overrule her. And, she's like, the memorandum says we should activate backups, but, the district manager is telling me no, and I'm like, so what are you going to do about that? She's like, nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, well, we're going to file a grievance, but we don't. But now we will.
Yeah.
Now we will file a grievance.
Your B team
in terms of the memorandum.
Yeah, your B team guy came up and cooked him, that business agent, the little guy that stood up. And then it came to the vote. And that was where you could tell that my man hated you and hated this, because he knew that he'd been beat. And when that first yay came out, in support of the executive council, when they said, I'm like you, I was like, that sounded like about 200, 300 people.
Yeah, it wasn't that many.
When it came back in favor of, this amendment, it was overwhelming. And I told somebody else this, it was like cheering at a high school game compared to cheering at a college football game.
Right.
Like going to my local high school and clapping for a touchdown compared to Neyland Stadium in Knoxville or Michigan Stadium, whatever. That was the difference in the sound.
It was a roar,
Yeah. And it echoed forever. So it was obvious. And I was like, damn, Mike done won. And he said, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. And what was funny? I think, and I don't know what's going on in his head, but sometimes the chair is thinking, okay, I have people out there on the floor that are going to advocate for my position. So when you go to a teller vote, now you have a chance to kind of work the crowd. You get 5 minutes, this and that. So maybe he was thinking, I'm going to work the crowd a little bit and it's going to come out better. But to me, it came out worse.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time they made us go through the teller vote, it was a landslide.
Well, the boos against him immediately started on that first, and it's like, that was close. They and kept a straight face. Right. I thought he was going to crack up and say, no, y'all won.
Right.
No, he kept a straight face, and did it again. It was worse the second time because you're thinking, maybe they'll be a lot louder this first, the second time because they realized they'd been beat. It wasn't. They were quieter. And then when it came up to your side, it was louder. So there was a vast difference in the second vote as far as the sound. It was not even close. Did it again. He's like, we're going to have to call for division. He didn't let you come up there. Most time for division, the person gets to come up.
How did the division work? Who called for the division? Or he called for it himself?
He did.
So nobody was up there on the stage looking at it?
No. See,
because that's stupid. Normally you have at least two people looking at it, right?
Yeah, the person who made the motion.
Right.
They'll get an opportunity to go up on the stage and look for themselves. They did it all week.
Right.
They'll look for themselves and it's like, yeah, you're right. And you'd concede that. But he called for division. Remember? And that's when that guy says you're out of order.
Right.
And then when they called for division, he's like, man, it's just too close. It was so obvious because I made sure I was the first one to stand up for you just so I could see. And so, the first party stood up. You couldn't
see because everyone was in your way,
Yeah. The first party stood up and I'm like, if that's a third, I'll kiss that ass.
Exactly.
Because it wasn't.
There wasn't that many people.
The second, when we stood up, the entire place stood up. And he's like, well, still can't tell.
Yeah. Like, you can't accept the will of the delegates.
Just give up.
That's the will of the delegates, man.
Just be honest. And
for example, when I lost some votes, right? Like, we didn't win all our votes, but if we lost the vote, we lost the vote.
That's
we're
it.
not trying to prolong it. And the ironic thing is, and this I said this in the beginning when we first started talking, he did some things well, but as far as planning of the convention, he had us there way late on Friday. People had flights, people had to go. There was still business to be conducted, but that was a result of some poor planning. And so you tell us we're going to restrict you to 3 minutes, a strict adherence to the 3-minute rule. And that supposedly is designed to expedite the thing. But then you delay us by what? 15, 20, 30 minutes by having this bullshit teller vote. And, when the vote was lost, so if you're really trying to move the thing along, like I said, once you should have realized that the members were going to be able to hear the charges, and you got a lot for time for that. So you could have said, hey, we're going to go over by an hour each day, because we know the charges are going to take approximately, 6 hours out of our time or whatever, right? Yeah. And then we would have been able to get out on time. But then even Friday morning, we're trying to get out on time, but of course we're trying to handle business, and you're up there lying about the results of the vote, prolonging the session, and people got flights to catch and shit like that. So that to me was disrespectful to the delegates. But nobody's perfect. The other thing I didn't like, and I don't know, I guess there's two sides to everything, but we're there, the delegates are the supreme body of the convention. And so you can't submit a resolution by yourself. You have to go to your branch, and your branch submits the resolution. So the majority of the members in your branch agree that this is a good resolution. And so when the branch submits a resolution, that means that the members of that branch think it's a good resolution. That doesn't mean all the members of that branch think it's a good resolution, right? And that doesn't mean that all the delegates and the other branches think it's a good resolution. So some of them get the stamp of approval from the executive council, and some of them get the disapproval of the executive council. But at the end of the day, the delegates reign supreme. We get to vote on all of them, except for there was a motion, and I believe it was made in just just trying to be efficient. And there's nothing wrong with, I got nothing against the fact that the motion was made. And the motion was made that, hey, if a branch submitted a resolution and it got recommendation of approval by the executive council, let's just vote yes on all of those in block. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, except for we've always added a little extra line in there that, okay, except if anyone wants to pull out a particular resolution, because, we got these books on Sunday, and here we are on, Wednesday or Thursday or whatever. So we've had time to look at them. And there's certain ones that people might have wanted to vote down, even though they were approved by the branch and by the executive council. But the delegates are the supreme body, right? So the chair, all the chair had to do in the interest of democracy, in the interest of making sure that the delegates are the supreme body, is say, brother, I appreciate your motion. Would you be willing to amend it so that if anyone wants to pull out a particular resolution, we'll just pull it out to the side. And then the ones that are by unanimous consent that nobody has a problem with, we'll just dispose of them efficiently and approve with all those in block. And then the ones that we got to talk about individually for whatever reason, we'll deal with those individually. That would have been the easiest way of doing it. That would have been the most democratic way of doing it. And that would have passed easily. And then we could have just moved on with our business. Instead, we had all this time spent back and forth, all these parliamentarian moves and shit like that. And at the end of the day, we got it wrong. Parliamentarian-wise, we got it right because you had 2 amendments to the amendment, amendments to the motion. And at the end of the day, when people voted to approve them all in block, it was a mistake because we ended up approving shit in block that we might not have wanted to approve. Now, our names as delegates to the convention are written down as having approved said resolution. There's resolutions in there like national agreement resolutions that you might not agree with. I don't know, and so now these become the official bargaining position of the NALC all the way into the future. And the delegates didn't even have a chance to look at them and say yay or nay. So I thought the chair, President Renfroe, and it was his first convention, but when I'm the president, I ain't doing that shit. I'll tell you that right now.
It was, and that's what I heard a lot of. It was a tough first one for him. And of course, he's under a lot of pressure. I get it, with the appeals and all these different things. And you could kind of feel the momentum, kind of the wind being sucked out of him, at certain points. But it was a tough one for him, but I was happy for you, my brother. Y'all did great.
We were ecstatic, man.
Hey, it was a fantastic one.
I don't know if you heard of file a grievance.
Yeah.
File a damn grievance.
Hey, that was everywhere.
Yeah.
People were yelling out, man. They were not happy with that. And it just
can you imagine having to pass a resolution at the convention
File
for us to file a grievance? The most basic thing that we do, file a grievance.
I don't know what our obsession with or our fear of national arbitration is.
I don't either.
We're obsessed with not doing that.
And just because you file a grievance doesn't mean you go to arbitration. You
Yeah.
file a grievance, you make the Postal Service come to the table. Maybe you get where you need to be right away. Maybe you don't. And if you don't, you have the right to appeal it or you have the right to withdraw it. I mean, you know, if you don't bring it up, you're not going to get nowhere.
And you talked about this before, Mike, but here's the thing about a national level grievance. I can request a lot of shit.
Exactly. Yep.
And when they see that,
Yep.
You know, this person over on the West Coast may not be, you know, privy to what's going on the East Coast. When they see all this stuff coming together, you know, this monumental amount of evidence against us, this is broken. You know, we're in trouble here as far as this. We need to maybe put something in place that's, you know, going to fix this. But, you know, if you're in Chicago, it's shitty. And some of these business agents like, well, over here, it's pretty good. I get so sick. I get so sick of that, Mike, because I've always said one aggrieved, we're all aggrieved.
Exactly. And in this case, you know, and I said this at the mic, when we convened in Chicago, we had like 4,500 grievances pending at the DRT. Now we have over 10,000 pending at the DRT. So, you know, overall, it's going in the wrong direction. Yeah. There's 7 teams. I looked at the statistics. There's 7 teams that are current, you know, within 14 days. There's 50 something, 60 teams that are not current, you know. So, and, you know, whatever. This is not the end all be all, but at least it gives us.
I've said we've got to get away from this mentality of there's 15 different unions.
Right.
You know, you got 15 different business agents, there are 15 different unions. I look at it like this, Mike, is that when I'm business agent, I'm going to have the back of every business agent. If y'all are being fucked over, baby, Region 8's coming. We're going to be there for you. It's not like that. And you saw that, you know, during this convention, when those business agents were getting up there and saying, well, we've got it great here. You know, it's wonderful. Same thing with S&DCs. It's really nice over here. It's really great. Sorry that y'all are getting fucked over, but it's really sweet here. What happened to us all being the same union?
Yeah.
To me,
I've always said that, man. I go to a lot of orientations and I tell the people coming into the union and I tell every member of the union, you know, we are your representative. We are your advocate. We are out for your interests. And when I say we're out for your interests, we are out for your collective interest.
Yeah.
So we negotiate a contract that applies to everyone. We have rules that apply to everyone. We represent your interests collectively, but we also represent your interests individually. If you got a problem, I got a problem.
Yeah.
We got a problem, right?
Yeah.
We all got a damn problem.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. And I don't care if it's a contract violation or if it's just a pet peeve or if it's just something that bothers you. I tell every member of the union, if there's something wrong, we're going to try to help you. We're going to try to fix it. Sometimes I can make a phone call. Sometimes I can talk to somebody. Sometimes I file a grievance, right? Whatever it takes. Sometimes I can just give you some advice on something that you can do. It doesn't matter. But if you got a problem, we all got a problem. Yeah. And that was the thing that was just bothering me about this thing. I sent so many emails to the EVP and to the president. And I'm like, look, I got a problem, you know? And they're like, you know, that's your problem. And I'm like, really? That's how you want to look at it? Wow.
I just, you know, as business agent, I want everybody to know Region 8, we're ready to scrap. You know, we're ready to scrap. If y'all need us, we're going to be there. We're ready to fight.
We can't wait to have you on board, brother. We can't wait. We can't wait.
But you know, that's what everybody needs to understand, baby. Region 8 is going to be ready to scrap. We're not going to sit any fight out. Any fight that goes on, Region 8 is going to be in the middle of it, getting funky.
And I believe that because I've talked to a lot of your members in Region 8.
Yeah. And so that's what everybody needs to understand. And I wish that every region was like that, is that when shit goes down, just know that Region 8, Corey Walton's going to be there. You know, Mike Harris going to be there. That's what everybody needs to understand. And that's where this union is getting to. You could see the shift this week at the convention, is that even with Tyler Vasseur's movement, this younger group of carriers are very militant and very engaged and are ready to take this thing back over. That's who you need to get.
Hey, you know why we never formed a building of fighting NALC before? Because we were just building the NALC. We didn't know you had to put a fighting in front of the NALC. That's what we do. That's why we joined the union. That's why we became officers of the union.
And people on Discord, that was funny watching them all week. They were extremely engaged, but they were a long time ago. I said, it's the National Association of Letter Carriers. It's not the National Association of the National Association.
Right.
And so they were all saying that on Discord, this is the National Association of the National Association. And that's kind of what you got a glimpse of it, because we forced them out of hiding. You made them come forward and say, hey, it is about the establishment. And that's what all week was doing. And you got those on social media that love it that way. Hey, the establishment is the supreme body. They're going to dictate to us what they tell me to do. I'm going to do it. It's not the city letter carrier that runs this. And there was a shift at the convention. They may have lost some votes, but there was a shift. And you and I talked about it yesterday, is that this up and comers, they're going to decide this next vote. And so, you got the retirees are kind of established in their thinking. You're going to have to get some of them, but your CCAs and your younger carriers are going to carry this vote, and they understand that, and they showed up.
They learned something, and I was in contact with Tyler a lot and the people in the building fighting NALC, because I really support and appreciate what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And, so we had a few kind of strategic talks and tactical talks or whatever. And, this was Tyler's first convention, right? Yeah. So, he's learning how the different maneuvering goes, and he's going to get better, right? Yeah. And they're going to have better strategies. They're going to be better prepared when we get to Los Angeles in 2026 and going forward. And I think that's going to be good for the members of the union.
Yeah. Here's a young man that made a difference and put his stamp on some things in Tyler Vasseur. And I talked about that with the Angry Mailman, but it was probably the best picture, the best visual of what we're dealing with was Tyler Vasseur, because he gets up there and absolutely kills it on his speech. He wasn't nervous. He didn't show it. I'm sure he was, but he didn't show it. He's very.
That mic is intimidating. Have you ever been to the mic?
Yeah. Oh, hell, I stood at it for fucking.
No, I'm saying, have you ever spoken?
No.
Because I remember, I forget the first convention that I spoke at, but maybe 2002 or 2004. It's very intimidating because one, they turn on the lights. You're like, holy shit. And then there's all these people in the room, and sometimes they get a little quiet. You're like, oh shit, they're waiting on me. And you start talking. As soon as you start talking, there's a reverberation, there's an echo throughout the hall, and you can hear your words being echoed back to you like a half second later or a second, whatever. Yeah. And so it gets confusing, and that's why you hear people kind of slurring their words a little bit, because they're like, it just, when you hear it and you say it, and it's not, it's not easy. But when he got up there, man, he knocked it out the park.
Hey, he was beautiful.
Knocked it out the park.
Yeah, he was beautiful. And to see the establishment come up against him, business agent, it wasn't the city letter carrier coming up against him. It was the establishment, the executive.
It was the status quo, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was business agent after business agent after business agent after business agent. And he had, the rank and file. Here's the city letter carrier pleading the case. Here's the city letter carrier. He did a great job. The vote didn't go his way, but I thought the dude showed out. And it was one of I think there's three major moments. I think the appeals, hearing those, Tyler Vasseur, yours, just because of the vote and how, I'm glad for you, but how Renfroe, full display of his dishonesty was on that. How everybody knew it too. Everybody could see it. This dude right here.
And number 4 for me was my president being able to change the Constitution.
Yeah.
That shit ain't easy.
Yeah. Yeah. And she did a fantastic job of speaking too, man.
Yes, she did.
She did a really good job.
Yes, she did, man. She's developing into a great leader for us. And she's, man, it's so proud of her. So proud of her. So proud of my branch. So proud of my region. Right. I mean, I don't know if you saw all the presidents get up to the mic to stand behind us. Yeah. Because they had wrote the letter, and it's their members' grievances, right? That are sitting there. So
she wasn't nervous.
What's that?
She wasn't nervous.
Me?
No, her.
Oh no. At least no, man. She was well prepared, and a lot of people were coming over and commenting to us, man, we really like the way you guys handle business. And, you know, we've been fighting for a long time to not just do things because it's always been done a certain way, but, you know, let's talk about what we did and analyze it and try to do better. And our president is our leader. And if we have any issues, we talk about it. And then when we get on that floor, we're ready to roll, baby.
Yeah. Well, all right, my brother, I'm going to get off here. Now, I got you coming up to answer the rest of the questions, right?
How many more questions are there?
Probably about 200.
I think I'm going to have to catch the early flight that day.
Spend the night. I got an extra bedroom.
That's true. That's true. But yeah, we'll do it, man. Whenever, I don't know what lineup you got.
Yeah. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to have to be in September for me.
That's fine.
Yeah, okay, we'll work it out.
All right, my man. I love you, brother. It was a fun week, man. All right, baby. We'll see you, Mike.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, bud. Bye. All right, so there's my brother, Mr. Mike Cariff. Huge week. I always love talking to that guy, man. He's something else. So love that guy. But so there's Mr. Cariff, and he'll be back on later, and we'll get some more questions answered, all right? Same as Mr. James Henry. He'll come on. Mr. Noble, last time I talked to him, he was still going to come on. He was not able to make it to the National Convention because of some health issues with some family members. And so he had told me that he wanted to come back on, so we'll see. We'll see if he does, all right? And so that's the future, man. Getting back into educating, which is what I love. I'll have the CLC members come on. They'll talk to you. Mr. Cariff can come on and talk to you. Tyler Vasseur will come back on and talk to you. Mr. Noble. And so we're just getting started, man. I'm extremely encouraged. I was not disheartened at all. I was extremely encouraged by this convention. You saw the city letter carrier rise up, and I thought it was a beautiful thing. The establishment had a hard time with it, and you could tell. Those business agents were nervous, and I love that. You know, holding people accountable, making sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to fight for us. And like I say, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. You've got to have a passion for the city letter carrier like nothing else. You got to be willing to do whatever it takes to defend them, right? You got to be willing to do whatever it takes to defend your brothers and sisters. You do that, you're going to succeed, man, like you'd never imagined. You love us, and you protect us, and you fight for us. The city letter carrier will bend over backwards to make sure you succeed, right? Win or lose. Win or lose. You fight for us. We see you fighting. We got your back, and we'll do whatever it takes to make sure you make it. And so there you have it. There's the episode, kind of a Boston recap, the present and the future, what we're going to do. We're going to keep building the CLC, and we'll talk more about that later. Education, education, and education. That's where it's at, starting next Sunday. All right, I'm going to have a bunch of sites, like I say. I think that will help you, especially shop stewards. Have a bunch of sites, different sites where we attack management as far as 6-day counts. They're already getting it ready. They're already educating themselves. You know, they're already picked stations. And so we can't do anything about it. But we can get ourselves ready to grieve them, to make sure that our carriers are ready for 6-day counts. And that way, after 6 days, whatever damage they do, we'll grieve it, hopefully get it put back in place. May have some crap stations for a while, but hell, we got that now with TRAP. So even though both parties are a part of it, so at least we can grieve this and try to put some money in our carriers' pockets, right? This podcast has cost management a lot of money. A lot of money. A lot of people message me and say, hey, because of this here, you know, we're able to get our carriers a lot of money, which is great, right? Because when management does something against us and they continue to violate us, it's always good to hit them in the pocket. And so we'll take it. We'll take it. I love y'all very much. I wish you knew how much I love you. I wish you knew how much it meant to me, y'all coming up and talking to me. I had some individuals come up that were crying, breaking down about things that were happening, and we would talk for 10, 15 minutes. And that happened a lot. I love you very much, and it hurts me to see y'all hurting. It does. It kills me. And so we talked a lot this week, me and you, and I loved every second of it. Loved every individual that came up to me and took the time out of their day to come say hi. And that was something special. But we're just getting started with From 8 Arbitration, man. Just getting started. We've just been going 2 and something years. We got 7 more. So we're just getting started. I'm not going anywhere, I promise you. All right? I'm not going anywhere. So I'll talk to y'all next Sunday, 6-day count. Does that sound fun? It's going to be. We're going to educate ourselves. I love y'all, and I'll talk to you then. Bye.